Powi pleads for consideration. Anger mounts in Simbu over snubbing. And lay residents react to government formation.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartolo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Thursday's news. Sitting Southern Highlands Governor William Powi has condemned the actions of Electoral Commission officials in Mendi, who he says set aside 80 boxes from NIPA LLG for the regional count. Mr. Powi said these officers must be penalized by the Electoral Commission for defying instructions from Electoral Commissioner Mr. Gamato. Meanwhile, Mr. Powi urged the Electoral Commissioner to analyze the situation in Mendi and make a decision.
The Southern Highlands regional seat is one of the 5 seats yet to be declared. Sitting Governor William Powi was declared last Friday, but the declaration was not recognized by Electoral Commissioner Patilis Gamato. Mr. Powi says EC officials in Mendi have failed the election process. He has now called for Mr. Gamato's intervention.
And on this end, you have the Electoral Commissioner not accepting that and saying going to count, and his officials in Mendi defying directions and directives from the Electoral Commissioner and hijacking the process, not following due directions from the Electoral Commission. That puts the whole scenario into perspective, whereby there is massive abuse.
So far, instances of ethnic clashes in the Mendi capital has remained unreported. This has led to the suspension of counting twice. Mr. Powi is alleging the involvement of rogue security forces and bribed counting officials after over 50 ballot boxes were destroyed.
Unfortunately, I am being advised that some of my scrutineers and officials have been thrown out. Some of my ballot papers have been found in the toilet. So this mess and discrepancies that are happening in Mendi is causing a lot of concern for my people of the province, and that the Electoral Commissioner needs to intervene in this very important matter so that I am not denied the right to represent my people in this parliament.
The Electoral Commission has allowed for counting in Mendi to continue with a new team put in place to manage and complete the process. But Powi says fair consideration must be given.
But I want the Electoral Commissioner and PNG Electoral Commission to address this matter immediately.
All other seats in Southern Highlands have been declared. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
2 Southern Highlands regional candidates want counting to be completed for the regional seat. Lawyer and candidate Vincent Mirupasi said the recent declaration of William Powi as governor is unbecoming and underpins the whole democracy process of electing members of parliament. Mr. Mirupasi claims the violence in Mendi is caused by Powi's supporters.
The due process has to be followed, because it's not only today. The country is still growing, and we need to make sure we do things correctly and properly according to law and proper processes. Because if we do this now, there will be no elections. Every man will hijack all the boxes at gunpoint, they fill them up, they bring them, and they'll tell you to count them.
Whether the Electoral Commissioner has to call it a failed election or it has to say continue up until declared, whatever that is, it has to be done. But for ours and our candidates, the people wants to know how many boxes, how many have been voted, and those 135 boxes, has to be counted.
In the aftermath of yesterday's formation of government, the battle lines have been drawn between a new People's National Congress-led coalition and what looks to be a vibrant parliamentary opposition. This afternoon, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill was quick to point out the negative effect of the new opposition's display of undignified behavior on the floor of Parliament yesterday, while in the presence of the Chief Justice Salamo Injia. Opposition spokesman Karanga Kua was quick to issue an apology to the Chief Justice later in the afternoon, while Parliament was welcoming back PM O'Neill before the House adjourned for 2 weeks. In a scathing attack, Mr. O'Neill said television news images of the opposition's behavior were broadcast across the globe, painting PNG in a negative light. Anger today in Simbu province's people came to terms with the acceptance of Nick Kuman as Gumini MP and the rejection of Lucas Dekena in Parliament. Supporters of Dekena allege that the irregularities were clear and it should have raised questions with the Electoral Commissioner. 2 writs were signed, one at the counting centre after the declaration and the other in Port Moresby. One of the writ bore the name of a returning officer who had died in February.
The dual declarations for the Gumini open seat and the existence of a second writ are set to make an interesting case if pursued in the Court of Disputed Returns. The 2 men at the centre of the controversy, Nick Kuman and Dawa Lucas Dekena, both went into Parliament yesterday. Both claimed to be the legitimately elected Gumini MP. The Clerk of Parliament had to go to court for a temporary solution. A restraining order was issued, barring both Kuman and Dekena from performing any duties. But Kuman went ahead and signed the oath of declaration. Dekena was removed from the chamber. By the end of counting, it was clear the Gumini seat was headed for trouble. Just before the declaration, an army major assigned as the Defence Force liaison officer in Simbu hijacked the writ and took it to Mount Hagen. The reasons for his actions are still unclear, but it took several police units to track him down and retrieve the writ. Dekena then signed the writ witnessed by the current returning officer for Gumini Open and members of the public. But later the existence of a second writ became clear when Kuman was declared in Port Moresby.
Peter Kalpe declared Nick Kuman a duly elected member-elect for Gumini Open electorate before my Deputy Commissioner Simon Sinai here in the Electoral Commission headquarters.
What's even more confusing for people in Simbu is that the supposed returning officer for Gumini Open, named as the authorizing officer, died early this year.
Auna Nick Kuman only declared him Moresby. Also, one of the money that is named Peter Kalpe. I mean, declare him Nick Kuman long Port Moresby.
Remaining seats.
The provincial administrator for Simbu, who is also the chairman of the election steering committee, says the process was hijacked.
The unfortunate event has unfolded as a result of certain people with ulterior motives who wanted to hijack the system. It's very upsetting when you have done your best to ensure that the declaration of all the new members of Parliament, you want to do it right, and yes, we've successfully delivered the rest. What about this one?
In Dekena's own village, there is a lot of anger, with many also feeling that the electoral process was hijacked and given legitimacy by the Electoral Commissioner.
Meeting was 45,000 people from Gumini. Cheated.
The details of the ballot boxes and how the counting ended with Dekena in the lead is also expected to become part of evidence presented in the Court of Disputed Returns, if it happens. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Kundiawa.
Electoral Commissioner Patiles Gamato clarified in a media statement that the returning officer who declared Nick Kuman as member-elect for Gumini Open electorate in Simbu province and signed the writ was Freddie Yaun and not the late Peter Kalpa. He conveyed his sincere apologies to the immediate family, relatives and friends of the late Peter Kalpa, who was the initial appointed and gazetted returning officer for Gumini. Commissioner Gamato went on to explain that it was an error on the part of his officers who prepared the statement for the media conference. Gamato says he fully retracts the statement mentioning the late returning officer. However, he explained that Nick Kuman won by a difference of 391 votes, according to the count supervisor Margaret Tokum. The decision to remove 412 votes after final elimination from the leading candidate was the sole decision of the former returning officer, Max Yomba. Following the formation of the 10th Parliament yesterday, a few residents in Lae had their say on the outcome of the first sitting. Disappointment was also stated over the absence of member-elects from seats that were yet to be declared during the formation of Parliament.
Whilst the formation of the 10th Parliament was in progress, residents in Lae continued with their daily activities. A few of these citizens had their say on the outcome of the first sitting. For some, the outcome was not anticipated.
I don't really like that, but whatever I got to say as a citizen, after all, they're still going to be running the nation for the next 5 years.
People like anticipating some blood change That's all. Changing or come up with some, you me like him long.
Minol one bell true long member of candidate member don't pole nanarapla all fopla all is stop outside now all is sit down now all is elect in parliament.
Like this government the past economically we are down.
For others, it was a joyous win. With the new government formed, the average citizen's life goes on. The daily challenge for health care and the need for quality education continues. For the vast and rural populace of Morobe, people hope for better service delivery in the next 5 years. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
Leader of the Coalition for Reform Party, Joseph Lelang, wants an overhaul of the election process. Mr. Lelang said the drama following the 2 elected MPs for Gumini shows the incompetence of the Electoral Commission and those who have been given powers to manage a transparent election. Meanwhile, Rabaul MP Dr. Alan Marat criticized the 3 MPs of East New Britain who joined the ruling government.
And I think we really need to have a look at the whole electoral process again, the laws that govern that process, and really tighten it up. We need to do that so that our people must have their say in a free and fair election.
Why after their election victories, why after the powers given to them by the people, we had hoped that they would join a team that would steer this country away from the existing, now the continuous governance of PNC.
National EMTV News continues after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National EMTV News. After much delay, the Kundiawa Gembog open seat in Simbu province has been declared with Willie Onglo as MP-elect. He polled more than 15,000 votes, unseating Tobias Kulang. He says his main priority is agriculture.
Well, I think unlike other Narva districts, maybe not got so much resources. So we have to create something like in my policy, maybe in some of the campaign, maybe sustaining me. So in the 5 years, I'm just going to concentrate on doing something that is going to be our kind of some economic electorate. We might look Jumla into the land. We're going back to the land, try to get people back into the land, trying to specialize into one crop system so that we can do into more exporting and stopping more imports. That kind of thing. That's the best we can do for the people, and also education, which is our main.
Over 200 counting officials in Port Moresby are still waiting for their outstanding allowances from the Electoral Commission. They fronted up at the gate of the Electoral Commission headquarters in Port Moresby and demanded answers from Electoral Commission officials.
The counting officials are from the 3 open electorates in Port Moresby, that is Moresby North East, Moresby North West and Moresby South. They started fronting up at the Electoral Commission headquarters since Monday this week because their outstanding allowances were not paid as promised by the Electoral Commission.
2 weeks now, declaration been come up now, speaker and prime minister already been voted. Now when are we going to get our pay?
Yes, right. And the next time they're making what Minox money coming up now.
Counting for the 3 open electorates in Moresby was conducted for almost 15 days after a number of delays. These officials say, according to their calculations, they were supposed to have received over 3,000 kina each. However, that was not the case. Today, when they arrived at the Electoral Commission office, they were told to fill out a name list and submit in for proper payments to be made. However, the officials say they have been submitting name lists since Monday this week, but their payments were never processed.
The
Electoral Commission is yet to make an official statement on reasons causing the delay in the outstanding payments of counting officials. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Opposition frontman Karenga Kwa says the alliance will make sure the ruling government is answerable to all its decisions in the running of the country. Mr. Kwa says the 46 members of the opposition will do everything in the best interest of the people. He made the statement in a news conference yesterday following the re-election of Peter O'Neill as Prime Minister of the 10th Parliament.
The 46 members of the alliance and the leaders remain intact after the formation of government. Speaking at the conference while the Parliament recognized Peter O'Neill as Prime Minister, they say they will remain the alternate government. All party leaders spoke collectively of the goal of giving confidence to the people despite not forming the government.
We're not going to give them an easy ride. They'll have to justify every little policy issue or legislative issue or introduce in the floor of Parliament. It's going to be carefully vetted by us.
Serving his second term in office, Northern Governor Gary Jufa says the fight is not over for the 46 members of the alliance. He says PNG can be rest assured that there is a strong opposition team.
But today Papua New Guinea can be assured that we have 46 voices in the Parliament who will stand up and fight for them and fight for what is right. And we will continue this fight.
Leader of the Independent PAC and former Prime Minister Sam Mekere Morata says the government has a lot to do to save the economy of the country. He says the opposition will also play its role.
So Papua New Guinea's future is at stake, very much at stake. We have to speak out. We have to stay together, colleagues, to make sure that we stop the country from being destroyed.
The 46 members of the opposition thank the country for the support and hope to speak for the people. Despite the show of solidarity leading to yesterday's formation of government, Vanimo Green MP Belden Nama urged the alliance to stay together despite the party coalition.
I just want to say this in the presence of all the 46. That I know I want a show of loyalty and commitment to the opposition. I do not want to see the repeat of the last term of Parliament where 22 members of Parliament moved out.
Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Papua New Guinea is now one of only 5 countries globally that have no female members in Parliament. This concern was raised today by UNDP together with the Registrar of Political Parties and the Ombudsman Commission. They are now calling for structural changes such as the 22 reserved seats for women in Parliament and quotas for women in political parties.
This year's elections had 3,332 candidates nominated. Out of this, 167 were women candidates, said to be a record high in the elections. However, none of them made it into the 2017 National Parliament. This now raises concerns whether women issues will be addressed in Parliament. UNDP's head of governance, Julie Bukikun, says half of the population now has no representation in the highest decision-making institution in the country.
No women in parliament means that 50% of our population are not represented. And as we know, in Papua New Guinea, there's a lot of issues that affect women. For example, the very high rates of violence in this country, violence against women.
After 9 elections, there have only been 7 women elected into office. Emmanuel Park from the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties said for this year's elections, 61 women candidates were endorsed by political parties, while the others were independents.
One of the very key development agenda, the Registry of Political Parties has been working with the political parties over the last 5 years in trying to include women as much as possible to engage effectively in the political arena in this country. And since 2013, we've conducted learning and development training workshops to build capacity for political parties.
Of the 167 women candidates, 3 women standing for regional seats have made it into the top 3. One of them, Rufina Peter, who scored 33,221 votes, running third for the Central Regional, had this to say about the challenges women candidates face.
The first thing is that the perception among Papua New Guineans, generally speaking,
is that politics in PNG is a man's world, and that political women are ill-equipped to be effective political leaders. That, in my view, is one of the key challenges.
Also, when addressing this agenda, Counsel for the Ombudsman Commission, Virgil Narakobi, says there are two options. Narakobi says a look into the existing political process and how they can improve it, and to engage the political parties to be a part of the process. Meanwhile, the UNDP says they're still waiting for Parliament to make a decision to a change in Section 101 and 102 of the Constitution to enable the appointment of 22 women representatives in Parliament. Merlin Diaukatam, National EMTV News.
Papua New Guinea's forest is unique because about 97% of the forested land is customary owned. This was emphasized today at the official opening of the new National Forest Inventory Office building in Port Moresby. It was funded by the European Union through the Food and Agriculture Organization as its implementing agency.
The opening of the new office builds on from the launch of the National Forest Inventory, or NFI project, and the RED Plus monitoring web portal. The aim of the NFI project is to improve the understanding of PNG forest for better planning and management.
We assisted the PNG Forest Authority to conduct the remote sensing-based national forest monitoring. So the remote sensing-based the study is completed. And now then we need to know actually what's on the ground.
The inventory project also aims to identify economic and social values of forest in PNG and to contribute to international actions to combat climate change impacts and biodiversity loss. This has been made possible with assistance from development partners.
I would like to say thank you very much to the EU, the JICAs, and the other development partners, in that we have seen the importance of the forest inventory in this country.
The EU ambassador unveiled the plug and presented the office building on behalf of EU to the PNG FA and the people of PNG. He said the EU is looking to continue its support to PNG in the area of forest management.
In addition to the ways that Papua New Guinea forest management can contribute to provide solutions to global issues and advanced knowledge and science, it is also important that it will be able to provide economic and business opportunities and improve conditions to its inhabitants.
PNG Forest Authority Managing Director Tuno Sabuin said it would be good to have all key stakeholders housed in one location for better coordination.
And I think it's good for the country to have whole government departments that are working to achieve one development goal, to be together under one roof physically, and that we can be able to work together to drive the agenda of the government, at the same time managing the natural resources of the country that is renewable.
The EU is funding the multi-purpose NFI project with 18.8 million kina and UN RED with 5.1 million kina, while FAO of the United Nations is providing technical support to the project. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3145 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.307, $0.3817 Australian dollars, $0.2554 euro, and 33.64 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee, cocoa, and copper closed higher. Gold is trading the day lower. Copper closed higher, palm oil is trading lower, and crude oil closed the day lower. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed 52 points higher, the ASX is trading 13 points lower, and the All Ordinaries 11 points lower. You're with National EMTV News, stories making headlines. When we come back, stay tuned. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Turning overseas now, North Korea's missile testing could pose a risk to commercial flights after it was revealed the latest launch came dangerously close to crossing paths with an Air France carrier. Experts say the missile came within 100 kilometers of the plane, falling into the sea on its flight path. Meanwhile, the U.S. has successfully tested an unarmed continental ballistic missile launch from California. It's the fourth test this year that the Air Force says was planned and not in relation to Pyongyang's latest launch. Well, there is new hope for thousands of parents who fear passing inherited diseases onto their children. Scientists have for the first time successfully repaired the faulty gene in human embryos.
The goal could not be more ambitious: to eradicate inherited diseases. These scientists have taken an impressive first step on a long road, editing DNA in human embryos. So how was it done? The scientists were targeting a faulty gene that causes a serious heart condition. They fertilized a healthy egg with sperm from a man carrying the faulty gene. They then injected the gene editing system known as CRISPR. This scans the DNA like a spell check or a sat-nav. It then cuts both strands of the DNA and removes the faulty gene. A healthy copy of the gene from the egg was then naturally inserted. The research has been welcomed by a team in London who have a license to edit human embryos. They say the technology could eventually help many families.
There are some nasty genetic diseases, such as Huntington's, or as in this case, a disease that affects heart function later in life. So a method of being able to avoid having affected children, passing on the defective gene, could be really very important for those families.
Nicole Mowbray has the same heart condition which was corrected in human embryos. She now has a defibrillator implanted in her chest in case her heart stops. She has a 50% risk of passing on the condition, but is unsure whether she'd ever consider gene editing.
I wouldn't want to pass on something that caused my child to have a limited life or a painful life. I wouldn't want to create the perfect, in inverted commas, child. I feel like my condition makes me me.
Previous attempts at editing human embryos in China led to serious errors in the DNA, so there's a lot of work needed before this could be considered safe. And it raises ethical issues about how far science should go to create healthy babies.
After nearly 70 years of royal service, Prince Philip has called it a day with a final appearance at Buckingham Palace. The Duke of Edinburgh is the longest-serving consort in British history.
It was the kind of afternoon, weather-wise, which might have made anyone glad to be retiring, quite apart from the fact that in the Duke's case, he's been doing this sort of thing for 70 years. But there he was on the forecourt of Buckingham Palace, a man of 96, standing to attention in the pouring rain for the salute he's heard so many times. There were many things to remind him of the past decades. The parade had been mounted by the Royal Marines, the fighting force which is part of his beloved Royal Navy, in which he served in World War II. And in the background was the palace, where he's attended so many events, the garden parties and the formal dinners alongside the Queen, and where his programme, 22,000 solo engagements, more than 5,000 speeches, has been planned. The Duke strode across the forecourt, no stick for him, and woe betide anyone who might suggest such a thing. And as he went, the crowd outside the palace applauded. By now it was almost time to go. The Royal Marines gave him 3 cheers. The Duke waved his hat and strode away. After 70 years' service, and with his own separate programme of royal engagements now concluded, who, today, would have dared to disagree?
Back home, and to news just in, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has named his caretaker cabinet. Just under an hour ago, the Prime Minister, along with 8 other members of Parliament, were sworn in as ministers at Government House. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill retains his oversight on Bougainville affairs. Charles Abel is now Deputy Prime Minister and has oversight on Treasury, Forestry, Civil Aviation, Sports and APEC, and Lands and Physical Planning. William Duma retains his Ministry of Petroleum and Energy and has oversight on housing and urbanization, public enterprise and state investments, transport and agriculture and livestock. Sepuka Temo remains in charge of public service while he oversees education, health, higher education, research, science and technology innovation. James Marape retains finance and oversees fisheries, police, works, attorney general and justice. Richard Maro takes over national planning and monitoring, labour and industrial relations, trade, commerce and industry, and communication and information technology. Rimbing Pato retains foreign affairs and immigration while overseeing correctional services, defence and community development, youth and religion. And Johnson Tuke takes over mining while overseeing culture and tourism, provincial affairs, environment and conservation, and climate change. You're with National EMTV News. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with cricket with the hosting of Scotland for the World Cricket League Championship only 2 months from now. Cricket PNG is pleased to receive support from Moniplus. While thanking Moniplus for the 100,000 Kina sponsorship today, CEO Greg Campbell said the funding will assist in getting officials up to speed as 2 PNG umpires will be officiating at this ICC fixture. Moving on, squash. Organisers in PNG are looking at going all out as the sport plans to expand and develop. President of the PNG Squash Federation, Eli Webb, said this during the Port Moresby Squash and Tennis Open over the weekend, which saw incumbent men's champion Swari Madako Jr. take the title.
Speaking at the final of the Squash Open, President of the PNG Squash Federation, Eli Webb, states that the future for squash is bright.
And we've got a really good, solid committee in place for POM squash as well as for PNG squash. Absolutely would be expecting it to get bigger and better as the years go by.
Her plans include an ambitious expansion and development drive, which will see more participants in the sport.
We've now got a nice, solid junior development program happening here in Port Moresby as well as Lay. So that would be also encouraging of the sport to gain a bit more depth as well now that it's coming back. And
Tim Klebish, who runs the Port Moresby Rackets Club, which hosted the event, is also of the opinion that the time is now to develop the next crop of talent that will represent Papua New Guinea in the future.
Everybody thinks tennis or squash is very expensive. Our club tried to make it affordable for everyone. The club is supporting where we can.
For PNG squash champion Swari Madako Jr., the sport will only grow from strength to strength. Speaking fresh off his win over Locust Brooksbank in the POM Squash Open Final, Madako states he's happy with the outcome.
It's a local tournament organized by the Port Moresby Rackets Club, and it's good that we're having tournaments like this, making use of the facilities that have been built for us.
And events like these give more opportunities for players to really showcase their talent, and for long-time Pacific Games veteran Imong Brooksbank, the chances have been few and far between, although she has relished every moment of it.
If we can get some sponsors together and put money into people like Asmati, who's developing, that would be great for squash.
The Port Moresby Squash and Tennis Open, which was held over the weekend, featured competitors from the nation's capital, as well as centres such as Ley and Mount Hagen, with Brooksbank and her son Locust travelling up from Cairns. Jeremy Moggy, National TV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after these messages. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Pacific Sprint Queen Toya Wusil will be competing in the IAAF World Championships in London. Wusil will run her first 100-meter race on Saturday and will be hoping to qualify for the semi-finals on Sunday. During her build-up to the World Championships, she came second in the 100 and third in the 200-meter events. Meanwhile, Ephraim Lerkin, who finished first in the 400-meter hurdles at the Oceania Championships in Fiji, will run his first race on Sunday morning at the World Championships. PNG long jump athlete Reli Kaputin will compete on the 9th of August, which is next week. PNG Volleyball Federation President Kila Dick says preparations for beach volleyball players for the Mini Pacific Games are progressing well. Not only are the teams going to compete for top spot, but also for the qualifiers into the 2018 Commonwealth Games next year. Godwin Eki with the details.
After successfully winning gold in the 2015 Pacific Games, beach volleyball has lifted to a whole new level where two young guns participated in this year's Youth Commonwealth Games in Bahamas. And as the Mini Pacific Games nears, PNG Volleyball Federation has started organizing its train-on squad to attend training sessions. President Kila Dick aims to lift the standard of the code in the country, especially engaging school-based students.
There are a lot of young, talented players coming through, and we want to make sure that we expose these players. We are very grateful that our beach volleyball pair, Moa and Richard, won the gold medal in the 2015 Pacific Games. And after that, you know, the opportunity now has been given to beach volleyball to explore in that regard.
He says not only the seniors, along with Mohamed and Kila Rupa, are preparing for the Mini Pacific Games, but also to qualify for next year's Gold Coast Commonwealth Games.
At the end of this year, there will be the Mini Games in Vanuatu, and we are also been given the expression to participate in the Vanuatu Mini Games. At the same time, too, there will be a qualifier. This qualifier will give us the opportunity to be able to take part in the Commonwealth Games. So beach volleyball has been given the thumbs up, and it's given us also the opportunity for us to explore the importance and the values of beach volleyball.
Meanwhile, competitions for the Open and Junior divisions will commence once advised by the Federation. Kila is encouraging clubs and affiliates around the country to encourage their youths to start playing beach volleyball, as there are more opportunities coming up for the international competitions. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
To cricket, with the hosting of Scotland for the World Cricket League Championship only 2 months from now, Cricket PNG is pleased to receive support from MoneyPlus. While thanking MoneyPlus for the 100,000 kina in sponsorship today, Cricket PNG CEO Greg Campbell said the funding will assist in getting officials up to speed, as 2 PNG umpires will be officiating at this ICC fixture.
With generous support from sponsors, Cricket PNG has grown from strength to strength over the years. Now with a stronghold in the region in producing national teams that have time and again proven competitive, the men's team, Barramundi, is now closing in on an ICC World Cricket League Championship title as their second to Netherlands. Meeting Scotland in the next 8 weeks would require added resources, as it will be a home game, and the MoneyPlus sponsorship will go a long way. It will also assist the umpires who will be in Samoa in the next few weeks for the Under-19 East Asia Pacific World Cup qualifiers.
This sponsorship is really, really important to Cricket PNG. We can't play the game without officials. Simple as that. We need our umpires here. These 3 gentlemen are on the ICC panel. We want our other umpires down and all over PNG to look at this standard that these guys are setting. You know, we've got Scotland here in 8 weeks' time, and 2 of these gentlemen will be umpiring that fixture. And MoneyPlus's money is going to go ahead in coaching, getting everyone around the country to aspire to be a top umpire in PNG.
On that note, Managing Director David Collesi said his organization has supported many sporting bodies across the country and is now extending that support to Cricket PNG.
We're delighted to be involved with cricket now. We've followed cricket and the progress of Cricket PNG over the years, and the professionalism of the teams, and the standard in which it's growing. And it's very pleasing to note from a sponsor's point of view, there's not arguments amongst the cricket fraternity. It's working well, and we're really pleased to be behind it. In tough economic times, MoneyPlus is delighted to come and help you with our contribution to this, and we hope to be involved with Cricket PNG for a number of years to come.
Dini Rose Raiko, National EMTV Sports.
More than $350 million. That's what is expected to be paid for the Brazilian footballer Neymar in a world record transfer deal. The 25-year-old said he wants to leave his current football team, Barcelona, and move to Paris. If all goes ahead, he will be the most expensive football player in history.
A hasty arrival for Neymar at Barcelona's training ground this morning. But this slow-burning transfer saga appears to now be reaching a conclusion. After saying goodbye to his teammates, his strike partner Lionel Messi took to social media to wish him well for the future.
Nice little bit of skill from Neymar.
And this is what Barcelona will miss. Neymar, a star for both club and country. Today's destination was unknown, but according to one of his representatives, the poster boy of Brazilian football is likely to be a PSG player by the weekend.
Yes, Paris made a proposal. They're going to pay the clause.
The planned deal for Neymar would set a clear world record. Back in 2009, Cristiano Ronaldo joined Real Madrid for £80 million. In 2013, Gareth Bale made a move also to Real for £85 million. Then last summer, Manchester United signed Paul Pogba for the current record sum. But at £198 million, Neymar's fee would eclipse them all. And so the stage is set. Paris Saint-Germain will likely welcome Neymar as their new leading light within the next 48 hours. This is the most political and financial of transfers, but ultimately he will be judged by what he does on the pitch.
$350 million. That's it in Trukai Sports. We'll have further weather details when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
A quick look at the weather for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Fine, becoming cloudy for Port Moresby, Daru and Alota. A shower or two for Kerema and Popondetta. To the Momase region, light showers in Lae and Wau. A shower or two in Madang. Thundery rain in Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, thundery rain expected in Lorengau and Kavieng. Rain and showers in Kokopo and Rabaul. Rain and showers in Puka as well. Fine weather, but a few showers expected later on in Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, all these major centers can expect showers with morning fog.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And that's the news, sports and weather for today, Thursday, the 3rd of August 2017. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.